Hey kids, it's Mr. Fly here, hope you're well. Out and about today on a very warm day. Looks a little bit miserable, but it's actually a lovely warm day. On another bike review. This is one of those bikes that fits into one of my favourite genres actually, the sort of sports touring genre you could call this. Today I'm on the brand new for 2022 Honda NT1100. I'm a little bit late to the party as usual. This bike has been reviewed to death already, but I wanted to take this out a little bit after all the hype had died down and just see what this bike is like in the real world riding around my local town. So stick around, stay tuned. I'll tell you all about what I think of the NT1100. Alright, before we get too carried away with the ride, let's take a look at this bike, shall we, and see what we make of this machine. So here she is, the NT1100, as I say, new for 2022. The looks of this proved quite divisive. Draw your own conclusions as to whether you like the looks of this or not, a subjective point of course. But in terms of the build quality of the bike, it does feel like a quality item, as Honda bikes always do. This is the dual clutch transmission version of the engine. This is the engine out of the Africa Twin. We'll go through the spec later and have a look at that closer. Some of the things I really like about the bike are the panniers. These come as standard. You can buy a top box as an extra, but the panniers come as standard, and these are excellent. In fact, if I go around this side where the keys are already in, I can just show you in here. Go to the unlock position. There we go, and these ones have got the optional bags in as well, but there's loads of space in there, so those are absolutely excellent and quite easy to operate as well. He says, try to do it one-handed. Bingo. So that's the panniers. What else to point out? Oh, we have got a couple of electrical sockets on here. We've got a normal sort of, you know, cigarette lighter type one under there, and under there we've got a USB one as well. Here's the switch gear. We'll talk more about that in a minute in some depth. The windscreen on here, a little bit disappointing, manually adjustable. You do that by basically yanking on here. I can't do it one-handed, it's quite stiff, but you move that up and down. I think it's got 5 positions on there. But yeah, I guess the only other thing to mention about the bike that I have noticed, this is obviously the press bike that I've borrowed from Honda UK, and there are already quite a few little scratches and things on the tank here. I don't know if it's just been maltreated, I'm not sure, but I wonder how tough that paint is. You know, Hondas are usually brilliant for fit and finish, so we'll see. I've just got a little bit of a question mark in my mind as to how easy that is going to be to scratch. Underneath, there's the exhaust, looking okay actually, nice chrome job, bit of polishing to be done, that's all good. Anyway, that's enough about how she looks then. Let's go and enjoy a ride. All right, well let's hope we can get a decent ride, because it looks like there's a road closed up here, and I'm running the gauntlet to see if it's actually the road that we want. Maybe I'll get away with it. This, by the way, in case you're wondering, is Little Missenden, an absolutely beautiful little village just next door to Great Missenden. Some lovely pubs and walks and things around here. If you ever come to the area, well worth coming to Little Missenden just to check it out. Anyway, I digress. Right, I'll just stick the old visor down, hopefully you can hear me all right. So yeah, the Honda NT1100 then. What's the first thing that strikes me when I jump onto this? Well, it's comfortable. The riding position is a little bit unusual in that it's obviously it's designed for comfort, big wide handlebars, nice big comfy seat. But I'm finding myself a little bit canted forward, more so than I would expect on a bike like this. So there's a little bit of weight on your wrists. Not excessive, but enough to be noticeable. See, as I come onto this slightly faster bit of road, the acceleration and the wind is pushing me back a little bit. It's not so bad, but so yeah, it's not hideously wristy, but there is a little bit of weight on your wrist. Some people might like that actually, because it takes a little bit of the weight off your backside, of course, but that just surprised me a bit. But otherwise, don't get me wrong, it's a very, very comfortable bike. In terms of wind protection on here, beautiful. This big screen is absolutely massive, and I am literally in one of my bubbles of calm here. I can feel a little bit of wind on my shoulders, but nothing turbulent, nothing on my head. The wind is way above my head, and it's got this massive fairing on here, so you could do miles and miles in wind-free comfort on this motorcycle, no problems at all. So the bike I'm riding is the DCT version. I'm a massive fan of DCT motorcycles. Effectively, if you've not come across it before, dual clutch transmission. It's a very clever bit of technology that Honda use on some of their bikes, notably the Goldwing. I'm an owner of a DCT Goldwing, and on bikes like this and the Goldwing that are used for touring, that it just makes complete sense to me. It makes for a very relaxing ride. You do not have to worry about changing gear, it just does it for you. It's almost like a big twist and go scooter. Some people think that's a bad thing, but actually in the touring world I think that's a great thing, because it's just one less thing you have to think about. Not that you have to think about changing gear, but you know what I mean, it makes life easy. Lovely comfortable ride on these sweeping bends. Suspension on here, nothing fancy, but it's set up just beautifully for me. I weigh about 11 stone, and yeah, the suspension feels nice. Not too hard, not too soft. It's in that Goldilocks zone. Nothing wrong with that. There's just a little bit of rain in the air. That's not good. Bother. And I came out in my summer mesh jacket as well. How annoying. Hopefully it won't amount to much. Incidentally, if you're interested in the kit that I'm wearing on this review, I will do one of my little fashion reviews at the very end of the video. So to save answering all those questions about what was that helmet you were wearing or whatever, I'll do that at the end of the video. So stick around to the very end after the credits if you want to check out the kit I'm wearing. Anyway, back to the bike. So what am I looking at as I ride it? Well, big frontal area. I've got this curious dual screen setup. We saw this before on the Africa Twin. Big TFT screen at the top, and then you've got a smaller subsidiary screen here. I think they do that because if you have the top one set up connected to your phone as a sat nav, it means you can still have the basics like what gear you're in, your speed on the lower screen. That's all very well. A little bit odd. I'm not sure I like that or not, but there we go. You can set this screen is touch sensitive, by the way. It works with my gloves. It's absolutely fine. You can set it up all sorts of ways. There are about 3 different looks to the screen. I quite like this bog standard screen that it's got on there as you start her up, to be honest. So no real trouble with the screen. It's got everything on there that you need. The thing I do have trouble with on this bike is this switch gear. There's just so much of it. Look at it, it's so complicated here. Now, as I mentioned just now, I'm a rider with a Honda Goldwing, and they've got plenty of switches as well, but it doesn't have as many as this. This looks like it's lifted off of the Africa Twin, because this bike is very much based on the Africa Twin. It's the Africa Twin engine in a sort of touring frock, if you like, which isn't a bad thing. The Africa Twin is a fantastic bike. But yeah, the switch gear has come across from that, and I criticised it on the Africa Twin. It's exactly the same on here. I mean, if this was your only bike, and let's face it, this is one of those bikes that you could easily have as your only bike because it can do everything, then you'd get used to the switch gear and it would be fine. But for me, as somebody who rides lots of different bikes, I don't find it intuitive at all. And this bike I'm riding is kind of been loaned to me from Honda UK. It's one of their press bikes, and when you get these loans you don't always get a manual, so it's up to you to kind of work out how it works. And for ages I was looking for the button that operated this screen, and it turns out this screen, even though it's pretty good at keeping the wind off me at these sort of speeds, isn't electrically adjustable, even though it looks like it should be. It's manually adjustable. You have to give it a hell of a yank at the front of the bike to move it up and down. So at the moment I've got its uppermost position, great at keeping the wind off me. But if I want this lower now, so that you've got a better view or whatever, I'll have to stop the bike and push it down. And it's quite difficult to push down as well. So I really don't like the screen adjustment on here. A little bit disappointing, that. But I guess that would have been yet another button on the handlebars. Nothing behind me. I'm just going to try the brakes. The front brake feels really good, actually. Yeah, nice and progressive. A little bit of fork dive there, but nothing too bad. Rear brake, not a lot there to be honest, but that's fairly standard on motorcycles, isn't it? Good for stabilising the bike, but other than that, not particularly sharp. But there's nothing wrong with the brakes on this at all. Normally in these reviews, of course, I talk about the what the clutch feels like and what the gearbox is like. Can't do that with this because, of course, it is the DCT version. You can get the manual version, and as an optional extra you can even get it with a quick shifter as well. So if you like that sort of thing, you can go there, no problem. I'm not saying I don't like that, by the way, but just on bikes like this I think the DCT really comes into its own. That's something I love about this bike, and I don't know why more manufacturers don't do it. Honda brought it out, seems like years ago now, doesn't it? At least 10 years ago, I think, on the VFR 1200, wasn't it, when we first saw it? And it's been on various bikes since. The NC750, the Goldwing, of course, as I've already mentioned, and I think it's just brilliant. It does add a little bit of extra weight and cost to the bike, but I think it's worth it. Talking of weight, this bike, well, I'll tell you what, let's go through the specs and then rejoin me after we've gone through the numbers. Alright, let's have a quick whiz through the specs then, and as ever I've written them down so I don't make any terrible mistakes. First off, let's look at this engine here. This is from the Africa Twin, the big 1084cc twin cylinder lump. The website says it puts out 75 kilowatts at 5,000 RPM. I reckon that's about 100 bhp, so ample for the road. 104 newton meters of torque at 6,250 RPM, so it being a big twin, you don't have to thrash it. Let's have a look at the brakes on the front here. We've got twin discs, as we can see, with Nissin pot calipers. These discs are 310mm, and those
those are 4-pot calipers, I believe. At the rear end, we've got, as you'd expect, a single disc, and that is a 256mm disc on there. And what's the caliper doing? Looks like it's a single. And then on the bottom here, you've got this additional caliper. That, of course, is because this is the DCT bike, so that's like a handbrake. And I can show you that's where the handbrake actually lives, up here on the handlebar. So you pull that when you're parked on a hill and you're in neutral so that she doesn't roll back. They think of everything, Honda, very clever. Suspension wise, show a big piston separate function forks on here, 43mm, so they're nice and beefy, but they're not adjustable at all. If you look at the tops, you can see they are what they are, but they feel good, as we'll talk about later. At the rear, it's got, well, again, nothing particularly fancy, I don't think. I don't know if I can actually see where the adjuster is for the preload. There we go. And they've got 150mm of travel at the front and back. Seat height on this, 820mm, which sounds tallish, but actually I find it very, very usable. I'm only 5'8", a medium-sized fella, and I can flat foot this bike, no problem at all. The weight, or the curb weight on this, 238 kilograms, so that's kind of partial fuel. Sounds heavy, but it actually feels very, very light when you're riding it. Tank capacity on here, 20 litres, so about average for this type of bike. That'll be absolutely fine. Electronics wise, well, it's got loads. It's got that 6.5-inch touchscreen. Let's come and turn that on, which does have a very slow startup time. If I turn that on, turn my light off. There we go, wait for it to come on. Come on, it's going to come any time now. There's a little splash screen. Anytime now. You want to use this as a getaway bike. To be fair, you can ride the bike or start it straight off, but the time, look, for this to all come up just is, and then you have to hit OK. It's touch sensitive and it works with gloves, but there we go. So that took absolutely ages, so that's a bit frustrating if you have to keep stopping a lot. Anyway, back to the electronics. It's got 3 display modes on there, which, you know, I quite like that standard one actually. It's got smartphone connectivity, less said about that the better, probably Apple CarPlay and Android Auto if that's your bag. 5 riding modes. It's got traction control, of course, wheelie control, believe it or not. It's got DRLs, which are these constantly on indicators. I quite like that, but I know some people don't. It's got auto indicator cancels, emergency stop signals. I think that's basically the back light goes bright or flashes when you brake hard. Heated grips, cruise control, 5-way adjustable windscreen. That's not electronic, as I said. Comes with a centre stand, which is, you know, doesn't happen very often these days, so that's a good thing. USB sockets, as I mentioned. Colour wise, it comes in grey or black or white, so a little bit, you know, not very exciting. Come on, Honda, I'm sure you can do better than that with the colours. You can get additional comfort seat for it, which is odd because I find this one quite comfortable. Maybe that is the comfort seat, I don't know. You can also get spotlights and a tank bag. Price wise, this comes in at $12,399 for the manual machine, or this one is $13,399 for the DCT. That's according to the website anyway. All right, that's enough about that. Let's go back for a ride.
Okay, so welcome back aboard the bike. And yeah, before we went through the specs, I was talking about the weight on this bike, and it is quite a heavy bike, as you heard, but I have to say, when you ride it, it feels really light. I don't know what they've done with the engine, whether they've managed to change the position of it or what, but it doesn't feel like a heavy bike at all. It feels like one of the lighter bikes. It's very easy to ride, non-intimidating machine. And in terms of the height of the bike as well, I can flat foot this no problem at all. I'm only 5'8", I've got a 32-inch leg. It's not my inseam, it's just my length of my leg in trousers, however that works out. So I'm an average sort of height fella, and I can get my feet firmly on the ground on this, no problem. It's got these little wind deflectors at the front, which are good for keeping the wind off your hand, but you get this reflection off the indicators, which are always on as like daytime running lights. I don't mind it, it's just an observation. Might be distracting at night though, I have to say, because you'll be forever looking at the reflection of those lights, which would then be nighttime running lights. I don't know, maybe they don't come on at night. Who knows? Anyway, just an observation. Stuck behind a couple of cyclists, brilliant. Don't get me wrong, I have nothing against cyclists. We're all on 2 wheels and we all share the road. Don't want to cut them off though as I go up here. They're just indicating there, I had to look at that left switch gear just to check that I had got the indicator. I mean, if you want to get to, say, the horn, for example, quickly, you're going to have to get that into muscle memory to get that sorted. So yeah, switch gear, definite no-no. It's got all sorts of buttons over here as well for controlling the TFT, the function buttons, your phone, all sorts of gumph. Because of course you can connect this up to your phone if that's your bag. Yeah, this engine feels really grunty, I have to say. If anything, the DCT perhaps, at least in tour mode, which is what I've got this in at the moment, maybe just short shifts a bit too much for my liking. It feels a little bit like the engine's labouring when you go at slower speed. So I'm in 6th now, look, I'm only doing 39 miles an hour. feels a little bit lumpy. I think it could do with maybe some adjustment, at least in that torque mapping, just so it doesn't feel like you're labouring the engine a little bit. Maybe that's just me, but I'd be interested in anyone else if you feel like that on this bike as well. Clear. Right, let's just razz it down my favourite little windy bit of road. Wow. Yeah, the DCT does hold on to the gear actually when you do razz her on. It knows what you want to do. And the handling's lovely. Suspension's not too bouncy. It's all good. I can see a car coming, so let's slow down. You know, it may sound like I'm criticising the bike quite a lot. There's a lot about the bike that kind of niggles, but the basic stuff, comfort, how it rides, suspension, brakes, seat, they're all top notch. Yeah, surprisingly like this bike. So Honda do market this as a sport tourer that you can go to work on effectively on their website. I can't remember the exact words, but basically it's for weekends and it's for work. Actually, that's probably a better saying than the one they came up with. So if you're only going to have one bike, it's well worth considering this. But you need to consider it against the competition, of course. And the obvious competitors for this are the new Suzuki GSXS215 GT, which I rode earlier in the year. I'll put a link to that review in the corner. And then, of course, I guess what you could regard as the class leader, the Kawasaki Ninja 1000 SX, which I haven't ridden in its latest incarnation, but I did ride it a couple of years ago. And those are probably the main competitors for it, and they're both slightly cheaper. If I was going to buy a bike in this category, which one would I go for? Well, I'm sorry Honda, but I would go for the Kawasaki. There's too much about this bike that I don't like. The switch gear that's fiddly, the looks of it just don't do it for me, I'm afraid. That's a very subjective thing. This manually adjustable windscreen, all the things that are listed basically in my don't likes would just put me off this bike. And also it being slightly more expensive than the competition means that for me that Kawasaki wins. And also I prefer the smoother running 4-cylinder engine on that. If you're going to have a touring bike, and that's what I would use this for, then I like smooth engines, not this somewhat lumpy twin unit. So there we go, that's my my conclusion of the review. I hope you enjoyed the video. Sorry Honda, you can't like them all, can you? This bike's not for me, but it may be for you. I'm no expert, I'm just telling you my opinions. These aren't facts. Go and ride one yourself if you're in the market for this type of bike. Give it a try, see what you think, and leave me any comments below with stuff that you think I've missed, or stuff that you think I've disagreed, or stuff that you disagree with. Don't forget to stick around to the very end of the video after the credits, and I'll take you through my little fashion segment, talk to you about the kit that I'm wearing. And do consider hitting that subscribe button if you've not done so already. I don't just do reviews of bikes here on the Missenden Flyer, but I do all sorts of stuff to do with motorcycles. It would be great to have you along next time. Until then though, this has been the Missenden Flyer. Cheerio.
Okay folks, so thanks for sticking around to the very end of the video and for my now infamous fashion segment. It's incredible, when I don't do these, people say, you didn't do a fashion segment. So anyway, this is so you don't have to keep asking what was that helmet you were wearing or whatever. I'll go through my ensemble for the day. Okay, so to start with then, my helmet, this is my new favourite. It's the Schubert C5. I've been riding this now for probably about 2 months. It's a brilliant helmet, this. It's just super versatile. It's quite lightweight, it's nice and quiet. It adheres to the new standard, which is called ECE 22.06. There aren't that many helmets yet on the market that do that. When I say it's very flexible as well and it's very versatile, that's because it's not only has it got a visor that you can tilt up, but it's also got one of these darkened visors inside that if my glasses aren't good enough, I can put that down as well. Not only that, it's flip front, you can ride with it up. It's effectively an open face helmet, and it's certified to ride like that as well. It's just a great helmet. It's very quiet as well. I really like it. Price wise, these come in at, let me check, £499.99 in the gloss white. A little bit more if you want to go for colour. I like the white one personally because it gives you a bit of conspicuity when you're on the bike. So recommend that to the house. I'll stick a link below to a sports bike shop where you can buy this if you want to go online. But if you want to try one on at your local stockist, there's also a link below to bikeaheads.co.uk. In fact, all the kit that I'm wearing you can find in bikeaheads.co.uk to find your local stockist if you want to try stuff on before you go and actually purchase them. So there we go, that's the helmet. Next up, oh, must show you this. It's my Tmf Bass Layer. You can get this on my website, which is www.themistandfly.com. Don't just do base layers there, but neck buffs, stickers, key rings, all that sort of stuff. But these base layers come in at 18 quid. They're very thin. They're sort of a technical fabric. If it's a warm day, like it is today, even though it looks like it's about to rain, and in fact is a little bit, it's brilliant just to wear underneath your jacket. It wicks away the sweat, so recommend those to the house. Next up, this jacket you've probably not seen before because it's not often that warm, but this is my Rucker Forsair mesh jacket. This is one of these jackets that you only wear when it's like above 20 degrees really. I like it, it's really comfortable to wear, nice and ventilated as you'd expect. It's got some zip up pockets as well so you can keep your phone in it. These come in at about 400 quid. They've got D30 armour in the elbows and the shoulders, and I think there's a space in the back for a back protector as well. So again, if you're going to ride in really hot weather, then this is the jacket to have. My gloves, also from Rucker. These are called the Forsair 2 gloves. They come in at £89.99. These have got hard knuckles. They're textile, and again, if you want summer gloves, then they're brilliant because they do let a bit of airflow through. So yeah, and also they've got the little touch sensitive fingers, so you can use touch sensitive screens and stuff like that. So yeah, recommend those too. My jeans, oh, it's starting to rain now. Here we go. You've seen these before. These are from PMJ. These are my PMJ jeans. They're AAA rated single layer jeans, so the best protection that you can get. And they come in at just over 200 quid. Again, I'll put links below to those. And while we're down here, these boots, you've probably not seen these before. These are from, who are they from? Falco they're from. They're called the Air Force boots. They're brilliant because I use these off the bike as well as on. In fact, I'll probably wear these more off the bike than I do on. They've got, they're CE approved again, and they've got D30 ankle armour, and they come in at £115 as well. I think they're just a winner. So this basically is my sort of summer warm weather outfit. So yeah, check that out. Cool, huh? All right, that's it for this time. Look forward to speaking to you again soon. Till then, well, I've done all that already, haven't I? Right, see you on.